Can't stop, won't stop. Where the brakes at? I give him that diddy bop. Like take that, take that, take that, take that.
Hey, what's up everyone? This is Inferno Reviews and welcome to my spoiler review for Avengers Endgame. I'm actually anticipating this video to be like 20 plus minutes long, so please bear with me. I'm actually gonna like run through of what happened in the film and like who dies and also what I think about the overall film and giving my ratings. So the movie starts off with Hawkeye and his family having like a little picnic outside. This scene actually takes place to like the same time as Infinity War, where the whole battle in Wakanda, where Thanos comes and actually tries to collect the Mind Stone from Vision. So so actually at this time, Hawkeye was actually teaching his daughter how to shoot a bow and arrow, and once she went around the tree to collect like the rest of the arrows, and Hawkeye tries to call for her, she's not responding. But when Hawkeye went over to the tree, she disappeared, and Hawkeye's just wondering like what's going on. And as soon as he turns around, his wife and her two sons also disappeared. So Hawkeye's like going crazy and just going like what is going on. And it cuts to the next scene with Tony Stark and Nebula in space, and they're actually like playing a game. Just actually shows that they're actually like bonding through like a friendly competition with each other. And Tony Stark actually has his helmet from the events in Infinity War all damaged, and he also does like a voice recording for Pepper, just in case if he doesn't make it throughout this, because it's been like 22 days since the events of Infinity Wars. And in that scene, you could just really tell that that Tony Stark is like, this might be like his like final message to Pepper, because he doesn't know if he's gonna make it out alive, and because food and water supplies is running out. So, and like he said, like oxygen's gonna run out the next day. So he really doesn't feel like he's gonna make it out. So that's why he did the voice recording ahead of time. So after that, Tony turns off the voice recording, went to sleep on the floor, and next thing on Nebula, and I think it goes into the next day, where Nebula comes to see Tony Stark, and she picks him up and lays him on the chair. I don't know if Nebula thinks that he was dead or not, but he was still alive. But as Tony Stark was like falling asleep, you could just see like this glowing light just gets brighter and brighter when it gets closer to the ship. And once Tony sees that, he opens his eyes, and it's Captain Marvel. So Captain Marvel is actually that saved them. And it also, that scene also cuts into Captain America shaving in the bathroom, and he hears he feels this rumbling, and it's actually Captain Marvel coming down with the ship. And everyone just comes and just sees like what's going on, and Nebula helps Tony to down the steps, and they finally like reunite with each other. And Pepper was alive too, and Pepper was like happy to see Tony Stark again. And I actually did like how Captain America and Tony Stark actually met up again, because they actually were able to, well, they just show like the look of defeat, because Tony Stark like said like he lost a kid, which refers to Spider-Man. So next thing shows Rocket and Nebula sitting down on the steps, just holding hands with one another, just showing that like it's just only the two of us now, because the rest of the Guardians died through Thanos' snap, and Gamora getting thrown off the ledge from Thanos just to get them the Soul Stone. Then it cuts into the next day. Everyone just rounds up and just talk about like what happened, and Thanos was able to like wipe out like 50% of the population, actually of like all living creatures. And this is where the scene gets really intense, where Tony was just like was angry because he had predicted this was going to happen from like the past movies, and how they needed like a suit of armor, referring to Ultron, to protect them from this evil threat. But in Avengers 2, that didn't all work out. And when Tony needed Cap in these situations, Cap didn't want to be on Tony's side. And as a result of that, look what happened. Like almost everyone got wiped out because Cap not trusting Tony. And next thing, he takes the defibrillator from his chest, and he ends up like passing out and gets knocked out until the next day. And then Captain Marvel decides to go kill Thanos herself, but Black Widow actually stops Captain Marvel, saying like, "Hey, like we should be doing this all together." And Nebula comes in and saying that, "Oh, because people don't know where Thanos is, because Captain Marvel was gonna go in space and ask people who knows where Thanos might be." But Nebula comes in saying like, "Oh, I know where Thanos is. He's at the garden." So where he basically like when he completes his plan, that's the place where he goes to like for like almost like retirement plan. So they go there, and once they do that, they actually notice that Thanos 2 days ago he used the stones again. And so the rest of the team pack up. They go to the planet where he is, and just to see like they could get like the gauntlet to revive everyone back, because that's the only way. So it probably could like undo everything that's going on. So once they go to the planet, they realize that Captain Marvel went down for recon, and they actually realize that there's no defenses at all. It's just him. So they all just go down there. They actually sneak attack him. Captain Marvel was actually the first one to like sneak up on Thanos. And before they come in to kill Thanos, or to get information from him, you could see like part of his face was actually like burnt and like charred off. Like you could see like the scar that is off its face. So once they were able to grab Thanos, Thor comes in out of nowhere and just cuts Thanos' arm off. And Rocket, he turned over the gauntlet, and they notice that the stone's not there. So they're asking like, "Hey, what happened to the stones?" And Thanos said like, "Oh, I used the stones to destroy the stones." So there's basically like no way for them to bring everyone back. And once they're continuing talking, Thor just comes out of nowhere and just cuts Thanos' head off. And so once that scene ended, there's actually like a 5-year time skip, and it shows like little like meeting room where Captain America and like all these other civilians are talking about like the traumatic events that these people faced after Thanos like snapped their finger and killed their loved ones. And in this scene, when I watched it the first time, I didn't know who this person. I thought like, and Joe Russo actually made a cameo in the scene. And when I looked at him, I was like, "Wait a minute, is that one of the Russo brothers?" I didn't believe it when I looked online and I saw pictures. I was like, "Yeah, that is Joe Russo." So he actually made an appearance in his own film. I thought that was really nice. Then the next scene shows the storage facility, where you can also see the car where they had the quantum realm from Ant-Man and the Wasp. And then there was a rat that actually went on the device and pressed on the button to open up the quantum realm, and Scott Lang was able to come out. When he came out, he didn't realize what was going on. He was just roaming the streets, just figuring out like, okay, like what's going on. There was actually a kid on the bike that was riding past him, and he stopped him and he asked him like, "Hey, like what happened?" And the kid just didn't say anything. He just like wept a tear that was running down his face and just kept on riding. So Scott, he basically went to the memorial site where all the names of the people who died on there. So he was looking on it just to find like his daughter's name. Luckily, his daughter's name wasn't on it, but his name was on the memorial plate. So he like quickly ran over to the house, and he actually reunites with his daughter, who was actually all grown up from the second movie. And they were actually like very happy to see each other, because she thought that he died along with the snap, but he actually missed it. And the next scene actually cuts into Black Widow having a meeting with Nebula, Rocket, Nicoya, Captain Marvel, and War Machine. and they're just having like a quick meeting on like what's going on with their different journeys, and they weren't able to so they just basically said like, hey, if there's like anything going on, just everything comes through me, and that's when the call ended. And it also cuts into Black Widow and Captain America actually having like a conversation. And as I was saying, Captain America and Black Widow, they actually had a conversation saying that, hey, when it comes to stuff like this, like we can't let go of it. And once they were in the same room, they actually have like a voice message in the front gate, and it was saying, it was actually Ant-Man that was saying that was like saying like, hey, like I'm here, like is anyone there, like does anyone remember me? And they both got up and asked like, hey, is this like a past video message? And they're like, no, that's actually the front gate. And next scene cuts into Scott Lang actually talking about the quantum realm and telling them like, hey, like before like Thanos snapped, I was like stuck in the quantum realm. And Black Widow was saying like, oh, that might have been like a horrible, like a long time that you've been trapped in there. But Scott actually said like, that's it. Like it didn't feel that long for him. Like yeah, it was only like, it was like a few years. For the real time, it was like a couple of years. But in the quantum realm, it was only like five. I think what was it, like 5 days or 5 minutes. It was only like 5 minutes for him, and time works differently in there. So that's where they come up with this idea of like maybe like going back in time and getting the stones in different timelines and bring them back from the people who've been like who disappeared. So once they found this out, they actually went to Tony Stark's house, and you actually see him with a little kid, and that's actually his daughter. And when I first saw that scene, I was like, wow, Tony has a kid with Pepper now. So he's actually like settled down as like a family man and married to Pepper. And once Tony and his daughter was about to go into the house, that's when Captain America, Black Widow, and Ant-Man are in the front of the house and explain to Tony that, hey, we can actually use the quantum realm to time travel and get the stones in different timelines and bring them back here. But Tony didn't. He feels like it's too risky for them to do that because they might, if you mess with time, it tends to like mess back. So um, they were trying to like convince Tony to like join up, but he didn't want to because he actually like he's happy now. He's settled down. He has a kid now. He's with Pepper, and he doesn't want to risk it all again. So after that, Captain America just told Tony that, hey, like forget it. Like we can actually figure this out ourselves. And into the next scene, it cuts into Professor Hulk, and yeah, like you see like Bruce now with all big and green now. He was able to combine like the brains and the bronze together, and that's how Professor Hulk came in. And this was actually a funny scene where all these kids actually wanted to take a picture with the Hulk, but when Ant-Man asks if they want to take Scott Lang asks if they could take a picture with him because he's an Ant-Man, like the kids like just not really say no, and like Bruce is just heckling Ant-Man, like the kids like, hey, like I know you don't want to take the photo with them, but Scott just says like just take the damn phone, and he was like they don't know who he is. So that was actually a really funny scene. So in all that, Bruce said that quantum physics is out of his realm, so they couldn't really help him. So this next scene actually cuts into Tony Stark back in the house, and he was actually working on like some kind of like project, and he was actually trying to figure out if this time travel thing actually works in the quantum realm. And once he did it, the first like model test, it actually succeeded, and he actually was really surprised. He was like, "Oh wow, holy crap, this actually works!" And he actually said the S word, which yeah, and his daughter actually repeated the same thing, but he said like, "No, that's a bad word. Don't say it." And it was actually a little funny seeing that him and his daughter actually interacted with each other. And once Tony put her to bed, Tony and Pepper actually had like a conversation saying like, "Hey, like it actually works," and they were like both like taken back for it. Like Tony was actually going to go through with this plan. And the next scene cuts into Cap and the rest of the group trying to test out the time travel with Ant-Man. So they did it a few times. Once he came out as like a teenager, then again he came out the old man, then he came out like a baby again. Then the one final time he came out back as a normal age Ant-Man. And that scene was crazy because they could have like lost him, but so they were able to get Scott back. And once Cap went outside, he sees a car just like driving really fast into the Avengers headquarters, and that's Tony Stark. And Tony and Cap, they talk for a bit. They make amends. They said like, hey, this actually works. So Tony went back to the trunk of his car and actually takes out Cap's shield, but Tony actually made the shield for Cap. So he actually gives it to him, and they try to get the ball rolling with this plan. So once that happened, that's when everyone said like they're trying to like get the remaining Avengers, like they're trying to get Thor, Hawkeye. So each team like splits up and try to retrieve like the different Avengers. Hulk and Rocket, they actually go to New Asgard, which is like near to like the ocean, and they actually try to get Thor to come back to the team. But once upon arrival, they actually run into Valkyrie, and they were talking. She said that we don't really see him. We only see him like once a month, only for supplies, which is beer. So Hulk and Rocket, they actually go to his house and find out, like, to see where he is. And next thing, like, this scene was actually really crazy because it actually shows like Thor, like he grows like a mustache, his hair is much longer, and he actually has like a big belly now, like a beer belly. I was like, whoa! I was so surprised when I saw him. He gained so much weight over the years. And you actually see the other two characters from Ragnarok make a return. And I actually did like that little funny scene, and they were actually playing Fortnite, and some guy was picking on them, and he was able to convince them to like stop picking. So Bruce was actually telling Thor that there's actually a chance that we could bring everyone back from the snap, and they actually he mentions Thanos, and that's when Thor just like gets like completely, he just starts changing moves, saying like, oh, don't bring that name up again, because Thor thinks like he failed because he had a chance to kill Thanos back in Infinity War, but he wasn't able to land the proper strike. So the best thing that they convinced him with, like, Rock was like, we have beer on the ship, and that like convinced Thor to like come back to the team. And the next thing actually shows Hawkeye and, I mean, well, yeah, you say Hawkeye, but actually Ronan. He actually is in I don't know if it's Japan, but he was actually like just killing like all these mercenaries in that scene, and I was like, whoa, he was like just killing everyone. And in this whole time when he was just killing people, Black Widow saw the whole thing, and the reason he acted like that because he was so distraught that like he lost his family, so he just went on like a killing spree. So Black Widow actually convinced Hawkeye / Ronin to come back to the team. So once they gathered everyone back, they actually had like a plan to discuss which timelines we could get the stones in. And they were actually able to narrow out like which specific timeline we could get the stones from. So they actually have 6 Infinity Stones they have to get. They narrowed down that 3 stones were in New York: the Space Stone, the Mind Stone, and the Time Stone. Yeah, they're all in New York. The Reality Stone is in Asgard, and Power Stone is in Morag, and the Soul Stone is in Volmir. So they were able to travel back in like different time zones into trying to get the Infinity Stones from different timelines. So for New York, Iron Man, Captain America, Ant-Man, Hulk, they actually go to 2012 back in the first Avengers to collect those 3 stones. Thor and Rocket, they actually go to 2013 in Thor's Dark World to get the Reality Stone from Jade, Thor's ex-girlfriend. and Clint, Natasha, Nebula, and War Machine. They went to 2014, but they actually end up splitting it off because Nebula and War Machine went or Morag to get the Power Stone, and Black Widow and Hawkeye slash Ronin went to go to Vormir to get the Soul Stone. So in the whole New York scene, oh yeah, and actually, yeah, New York, Hulk actually splits up with the group to go to the Ancient One's house to get the Time Stone, and tries to like convince her like, hey, we need the Time Stone because there's problems that are going on in our time, and the Ancient One didn't allow him to do it because without the if one Infinity Stone like gets is taken out of the time, then there's gonna create like an alternate reality. So at first, once Hulk kept going towards her, she actually touched his chest, and actually like in like his soul, his I think it's like actually his soul actually is out of his body, and then Tony Tony and Scott, they actually try to retrieve the Tesseract from Loki when Loki was arrested, and that whole scene was that whole scene was pretty funny. Ant-Man was saying like, oh, Tony first said like, hey, that butt doesn't look good on in that suit, Cap. But Ant-Man is saying like, that's America's butt right there. I was like, that was really funny. So that scene was actually really cool. Then there was actually another scene where Captain America actually ran into the Shield agents, or actually slash Hydra, but at that time they didn't know that was Hydra. So once Cap went into the elevator, it was actually a little like homage to Winter Soldier in that elevator scene. And Cap was saying like, oh, they need the Mind Stone because there was orders that he should take point for the scepter. And this was actually also my another favorite scene. He actually whispered into one guy's ear saying, "Hail Hydra," and when I heard that, I was like, "Whoa, that's crazy," because they were actually really shook because it's like, how did he know that we were like Hydra the whole time? So Cap actually took the scepter from them, and once everyone was like downstairs, Tony and Ant-Man, they try to like come up with an idea to get the Tesseract. So Ant-Man actually went into other Tony's chest, and like just to cut off the power, so that Tony goes into cardiac arrest. So, but he's okay. He's still alive. So he went to like cardiac arrest, and while that whole time Tony actually got the briefcase, all was well until Hulk smashed through the door, knocking Tony out with the Tesseract. And once that happened, Loki saw the Tesseract open, and he actually disappeared. So they actually blew their chances to get the Tesseract. And also when Captain was trying to like talk to Tony, like say like what's going on, he actually runs into his younger self, and that was actually like a really cool fight where like older Cap versus younger Cap, and that was actually like a really good fight. They were actually like trying to they were like beating up each other, but it was actually when they like fall on the ground. Cap actually had this like little pocket picture where he had like a picture of like his Peggy, his girlfriend. And once young Cap, the guy that saw that, he was like, oh, where did you get this from? And that's when he got angry, and I thought that the younger Cap was gonna choke out the older Cap. But the one thing that the older Cap did was he told that he said like Bucky's alive, and once younger Cap heard that, he dropped his guard, and older Cap just knocked him out and took the staff. And it jumps into another scene where Bruce was trying to convince the Ancient One that we need the stone, and they were saying like, hey, like Doctor Strange actually gave it to Thanos, and the Ancient One was kind of was confuzzled because like, hey, why did he give it to him? And he was like, I don't know, like there probably must have been a reason why he gave it to Thanos. So the Ancient One was willingly to give the stone to Bruce and to bring it back. So that actually cuts into like, when Tony and Ant-Man are in like this like beat up car, and they're actually saying like, hey, like we blew it because we didn't get the Tesseract. So another option that they had was to going back to the 1970s in the Shield's headquarters to get the Tesseract. So that's what they did. They went back into the past, tried to get the Tesseract from there. They actually did succeed, but Tony actually ran into his father, Howard Stark, and when I saw that scene, I was like, whoa, like father and son actually like meet up with each other, and that scene was actually like really touching, almost like kind of like almost like they're bonding with one another, but they don't. But Tony knows who he is, but Howard doesn't know who he is. At this whole time, when Tony was got the Tesseract, Captain America was trying to get the Pym particles from Hank Pym's lab, and they're actually getting uh, followed by police, like kind of like officers, because one late when they were like in the elevator entering the Shield's headquarters, the lady didn't recognize them. So Captain went into the other room, and once he went in that room, he saw that was actually like his girlfriend's office. So that was actually like a really touching scene right there. So once that happened, Captain was able to get the yeah. I feel like yeah that happened before. Yeah, he was able to get the Pym particles. He ran into the room, and the next scene cuts into Tony and Howard and how they walked outside and had their like final like goodbyes, and they were saying like, oh, like my wife is actually expecting like a baby soon. So he was actually like trying to ask him for some tips, and that was actually like a really cool scene right there. Just like one last like bonding moment with Tony's dad. So and next it goes into I know like when it comes to this part of the movie, like the time travel it actually cuts in and out in like different timelines, but I'm just actually gonna just go through like New York, Asgard, Morag, and Volmir. I'm just gonna go with them in order. So the next scene actually cuts into Thor and Rocket in Asgard. This was actually like the specific day that Thor's mom died, so he's like hyperventilating, having anxiety, and Rocket actually convinces Thor that hey, like I'm not the only one that lost people. Like we have to like do this. So Thor actually was able to talk to his mom for one last time, and Rocket was able to get the reality stone from Jade, and Thor once Thor ran into his mom, he was saying like, "Oh, I'm your son," but she figured out that that's not his son from. It was like probably like a son from a different timeline. So they were actually able to like catch up for a little bit. Thor was actually gonna tell her that she was gonna die this day, but she didn't want to know like what happened to her. So Rocket got the reality stone. He was running away from the Asgard soldiers, and once they were about to leave, Thor actually grabbed Mjolnir, the old Mjolnir from the first two movies, and they actually went back to the present day future. And with Nebula and War Machine on Morag, they actually waited for Quill because he's the one that actually gets the Power Stone in the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. So once they ran into Quill, War Machine just knocked them out completely, and they found like a little tool that they needed to like open the door to get the Power Stone. And once Nebula got it, oh, actually, way before that scene, Nebula actually stated that they're not the only ones in 2014 that they're getting the stone. It was actually her and her and Thanos, her father. So once that happened, it cuts into this whole scene with Nebula defeating Nebula going against like these different enemies, and Gamora saves her at the last minute. And once they both like reunited with Thanos, the past Nebula started to like get all these like malfunctions and like show like images with the Avengers like going back in time to get the stones back in different timelines. And like once Thanos saw that, he was like, oh, like the Avengers, they're trying to like spoil his plan. And next thing, they see like someone familiar in the background, and once they went deeper into that picture, it was actually Nebula. And one of Thanos' guards actually told him that she's a traitor, but they actually saved her life because we can actually use her. So fast forward right when Nebula got the Power Stone with War Machine. Once they were about to leave, War Machine left, but Nebula ended up like not staying because she actually the present day Nebula had like all malfunctioning because Thanos was like encrypting her like memory file to see like what's going on. And come to find out, they actually have like a recording where it was future Thanos and how he was able to complete his plans. And once present day past Thanos saw that, he knew that it was his destiny to complete his mission. So once that happened, Nebula actually ran to the little space pod and actually tried to reach the other Avengers, saying like Thanos knows our plan. And once that happened, Thanos' ship actually sucked up the space pod that Nebula was in. So once that happened, they actually like not really tortured Nebula, just saying Nebula actually tries to convince Gamora like, hey, like this is what happens in the future, and and do you know what Thanos does to get the Soul Stone? And right when Nebula's about to say it, the past Nebula kicked her down, actually like took off the compartment that was on like the side of her head and put it on her own head. And once that happened, Nebula went to Thanos with the pin particle and give to Thanos. And also in the last scene is where Hawkeye and Black Widow went to Vormir and they actually run into Red Skull. And he was actually explaining to them, hey, like order to get the Soul Stone, it's like you need like another soul, basically exchange for like a soul for a soul. Hawkeye doesn't believe him. He just saying like he's just making it up, but Black Widow says like he's not making it up. One of us had to like sacrifice ourselves to get the Soul Stone. So once that happened, they actually had like a little back and forth and saying like, oh, I'm gonna like try sacrifice myself to get the stone. Right when Hawkeye was about to jump off, I really thought that he was gonna die because it's almost like what does he have to lose? Like he almost like lost like he lost his entire family because of Thanos. So he decided to like jump off the ledge, but at the last minute, Black Widow actually saved Hawkeye, and they were actually on like the edge of the ledge, and Hawkeye didn't have enough strength to pull Black Widow up. So Black Widow told Hawkeye to let her go, and like eventually like the grip just couldn't last, and Black Widow ended up falling onto the ground, and that's how Hawkeye got the Soul Stone, and that was actually the time that everyone was returning back to the present day. And once everyone saw each other, Hawkeye was the only one like in distress because he didn't return with Black Widow. So everyone was just like, "Hey, like what happened?" And they're like, "She's gone." So they cut into this little scene where everyone is mourning Black Widow's death, and they just come to a conclusion that they can't bring her back. Thor acts like we could bring her back with the snap, but it really can't be undone. So they got all the stones back to Avengers HQ. Tony Stark actually made like a replica gauntlet and actually put the stones in it. And everyone's like currently debating like who's gonna snap. And Thor wanted to do it, but he didn't really have like he wasn't he yeah, even though he has lightning powers, but he wasn't able to like he's not gonna be able to survive the snap. So Hulk actually volunteered himself to do it because he concludes that the mostly radiation is gamma, and that's like something he could handle. So everyone just gets ready, puts like their suits on, and they actually like ended up like put the whole headquarters on lockdown, so just in case if something bad happens. So once Hulk puts on the gauntlet, there you see all the channels just running through like his arm, and it's actually getting like burnt. And also during this time, this is where Nebula, the fake Nebula, actually gets brings Thanos ship into the present day, and Once Hulk was able to snap his finger, he like automatically passes out, and 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 everyone was saying like, "Oh, did we do it? Did we do it?" And Ant-Man walked like um outside of the room, and he saw that there was actually birds flying, and on Hawkeye's phone it was ringing, and that was his wife that was calling. And once he picked it up, he said hi. So it looks like everything worked. And as soon as everything looked peacefully, then the missiles started to hit the Avengers HQ, and Thanos destroyed the whole HQ. And like everyone that was I know Rocket, War Machine, and Ant-Man and Hawkeye, they were actually like underneath the rock, like under actually everyone was underneath the rumble. And Hawkeye was the one that has the gauntlet. But then this was the scene where Thanos' minions were actually looking for the gauntlet, so they ended up chasing Hawkeye down. And it cuts into the scene where Thanos tells Nebula to go get the gauntlet, and Thanos is just basically just gonna sit there until some people come. And yeah, I know War Machine, Rocket, and were stuck in the rubble, and Ant-Man comes to rescue them. And once that happens, it cuts to the next scene where Tony is actually waking up Captain America, and Thor is like outside of the rubble, and there they are. They just look down and they see Thanos just waiting there. And Thor, he ends up putting on his suit of armor, and also gets his two hammers. So they all go down and try to face Thanos. All three of them at once, just facing Thanos. And this is actually a really like great scene. Just all three of them just going up against Thanos. Like even with all three, with Captain America, Tony Stark, and Thor, there were still no match for Thanos. It's almost like Thanos was just bulldozing through them. And there's one scene where like Thanos is gonna kill Thor with his own hammer. You see the old Mjolnir being taken up and actually thrown at Thanos, and once it comes back, it's actually Captain America that's wielding Mjolnir. And when I saw that, I was like, whoa, that's crazy. So he's finally worthy to wield Mjolnir. And Thor cuts to Thor saying, "I knew it." And there's actually like a really another great scene too, like Captain America just pummeling, just hitting Thanos with the multiple combinations with his shield and his hammer. But even with the combination of the shield and hammer, it wasn't enough. Thanos ended up like breaking Captain America's shield, and it always looks like everything's lost until Captain hears like a call from Sam, from Falcon, and it shows like all these like different portals opening up. First, it shows like Black Panther, and Okoye, and his sister come out, and that was actually another great scene. Not bad scene, a great scene. The next thing, it shows like Doctor Strange. You see the Guardians. You see Spider-Man. You see like everyone else coming. You see Valkyrie. You see the other two guys from early on in the show in Thor's house. Pepper. Pepper actually comes in with the her own suit, with the Wasp. And that was actually that scene where they all just like lined up together, and Captain America saying, "Avengers, assemble." That was it. I was like, whoa. And this is it. This was like the final showdown. This final scene was like everything. It has like all the action, the back and forth. Oh yeah, I forgot. You also see Scarlet Witch too. I almost forgot to mention her. And yeah, like that scene was crazy. It definitely showed like it, everyone some people have like oh yeah, I also forgot one more thing. Winter Soldier and Groot. Yeah, and continuing on, yeah, some people had like their little like moments. Oh yeah, actually I almost forgot. There was actually this other scene where Hawkeye actually ran into Nebula, but he thinks this is the present Nebula, but this is actually the past Nebula that's working with Thanos. So once he figured that out, I thought Nebula was gonna kill Hawkeye there, but Gamora actually stopped her, and the present day Nebula showed up, and once that Nebula is basically telling her past self that you could change, but the past Nebula is saying like, oh no, Thanos won't make me, And once he was about to shoot, Nebula shot herself, and that was it for that scene. So fast forward into the final battle. The final battle, it definitely did showcase like everyone's like some people's screen time. Also Hawkeye with the gauntlet, and also playing like hot potato, like people like getting the gauntlets, like Hawkeye passing it to Black Panther, then Black Panther, then Spider-Man ends up getting the gauntlet. Then I think also Captain Marvel got the gauntlet because they're trying to like come up with a plan to send the stones back into the past. But the only way to do it was to go to the van, which had the quantum realm. So Ant-Man and the Wasp had to buy them time because it was going to take like a few minutes to get it all started. So there was actually another badass scene was when Scarlet Witch came across Thanos, and Scarlet Witch said, "You took everything from me," but Thanos said, "I don't even know who you are," and Scarlet Witch gave Thanos the work. Oh man, I at first like I thought she was losing, but she was just playing with them, and just like started shredding his armor, and that's when Thanos said just the order to the cannons to just shoot everyone, even like his own troops, and that's what happened. But next thing, the cannons end up pointing at the sky, and everyone's wondering who's that, and there's actually Captain Marvel coming down like a tank, just like zipping through the ship and zipping and destroying Thanos' main ship. And once that happened, Captain Marvel went to Spider-Man because Spider-Man had the gauntlet. That was actually like a little funny interaction. He was like, Spider-Man was like, "Hey, I'm Peter Parker," and Captain Marvel was like, "Oh, hey, Peter Parker, do you have something for me?" And like, "Yeah, here you go." And this was another good scene was like all like the female heroes that were in the movie that actually came together to protect Captain Marvel because she has the gauntlet, and they had like a little scene there, and Captain Marvel was flying to go to the van to the quantum realm, but as soon as she was about to get into the quantum realm, Thanos actually threw his sword at the van, and it exploded. And this is where everyone tries to like stop Thanos from getting the gauntlet, but he ends up like knocking Captain America. He beat up a few people, and there was actually a moment where he had the gauntlet in his hand. He was about to snap, but Captain Marvel stopped him like last minute, and she actually fought him for a bit. But right when Captain Marvel was overpowering him, Thanos took out the Power Stone, the Purple Stone, used that, put it in his fist, and punched Captain Marvel. And he put the stone back into his fist. And once that happened, Tony Stark looked at Doctor Strange, and Doctor Strange was like, and I think that was like an indication that this is what you have to do. And once Tony went up to Thanos and like tried to grab the gauntlet from him, Thanos pushed him away. And right when Thanos snapped his finger, it didn't work because the stones weren't there. And I'm thinking like, oh, what happened to stones? And you see Tony Stark just laying there, and the stones just go into his hand. And the most epic line that he said, he was like, before he snapped, he was like, "I am Iron Man." And that's when everyone just vanished and disappeared, including Thanos himself. And that's when everyone won. You think like this was like gonna be like a happy ending, but Tony, like from like the power of like the stone, he actually ended up dying. I felt bad for Spider-Man and Pepper because Tony Stark has been mentoring Spider-Man from Civil War, so it was almost like they almost had like that little like almost like that father-son relationship they had. So I felt bad for Peter when he had to witness that, and also Pepper because she also had like a daughter that she has to now raise by herself. The most touching scene was like, hey, like when Pepper told Tony like, hey, you can finally rest now, and that was a really sad scene. But oh man, that was a really sad scene. So next scene cuts into Tony's funeral, and it actually shows everyone, like the whole cast that was there at Tony's funeral, and you also see like this one kid, like when I was at the movie theater, when this one kid actually that was all the way in the back, most people didn't know who he was. I forgot what he was, but that was actually like the little kid from Iron Man 3 that was actually all grown up. So I thought that was a nice, touching final scene to bring everyone who interacted with Tony Stark to show up at his funeral. And the next scene shows some people like watching like a recorded message, like a recording video of like Tony basically like predicting his own death, that he might not make it out of this alive. So that's actually pretty like cool. Like Tony actually like planned this out to like the very end. So he kind of knew that he wasn't gonna make it out of this alive. This was gonna be like the final stretch for him. So, oh yeah, like it now different scenes shows like everyone like returning back to their normal lives. Peter going back to school. Thor, he's not king of Asgard no more, so he passes down the mantle down to Valkyrie, so she's like the new queen of Asgard. And Thor is actually, it looks like Thor is gonna be riding with the Guardians of the Galaxy from now on. And it was actually like a little funny exchange between him and Quill, and how they're actually like fighting for leadership of the ship. So that was actually like really funny. Oh yeah, and there was another scene where Captain America, Sam, Winter Soldier, and Hulk, they actually made another like little like quantum realm panel, so they could return the stones back to where they found them. So Captain America volunteered to bring all the stones back, and also Mjolnir. And once he went into the past to return the stones, because it doesn't take long for him to do it, because for him he could take as long as he wants, but for the present day it could be like for like a few minutes. So once they tried to bring him back, he didn't show up back on the panel, so they're wondering like, oh, what's going on? Like Sam's like heckling Hulk to bring him back. So once once Winter Soldier turned around, he sees a man sitting on the bench. So he calls Sam and he says, hey, that's Cap. So he tells him to go over, and you see Captain America is like an old man, and now like he can't really and Sam just basically acts like Cap, like what happened. So he basically told Sam that, hey, like I actually listened to Tony's advice to get a life, and I actually did. So I'm thinking that he probably like once he returned all the stones, he just stayed in the past and just waited all those years at that specific moment to wait at the bench, because he knew that those guys will be there at that time. So Sam says like, I can't imagine a world without like a Captain America, and that's when Steve actually gave as like a bag with the shield, and he gives it to Falcon to try it on, and he was like, hey, like try this on. How does it feel? And Sam says like it belongs to someone else, and that's when Steve passes down the mantle to Falcon. So Falcon's the new Captain America. Yeah, that was actually like a really touching scene. So that means it's it. Captain America finally he retired from being a hero. So yeah, that was actually like a very. And the last scene actually shows a past where Captain America is actually dancing with his girlfriend Peggy, and that was actually like a really nice touching scene. So yeah, that was actually my synopsis of the film. It was a lot to get through, but overall I did enjoy the movie very much. The different dynamics between the characters. I liked how they definitely went about Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, because in my spoiler-free review I explained how like Tony Stark was like my favorite character in this movie, and it's because like the amount of character development that Tony went through from the first Iron Man till now is like it's insane. In the first Iron Man, he was like a very like selfish, like rich playboy that's like slept around with a lot of women. But over the years, he actually developed into like a character that was like he thought about like other people, and he was able to like be selfless and do things for other people. So that actually really did like touch me about Iron Man and how he was in this movie. It just hit me right here. It just hit me in the heart. Like man, Like Iron Man just went through all this huge journey, and the amount of character development that he went through was insane. And I think like also the final, so I commend like Robert Downey Jr. for his role as Iron Man. He did a phenomenal job, and I really do appreciate him for his years at this in the Marvel universe. And also Captain America. Captain America, he did a great job in this movie too. Just him just passing down the mantle to Falcon as a new Captain America. It just shows that this is it. Like for some of these characters, you will not see them again because their actual contracts are up. So I did like the final battle, but I kind of wish they did show like I kind of wish they did a little bit more with it. I mean, when it comes to characters, that was like a main course, but I think I guess like with like the screening time for each character, I kind of wish we had like a little more of that. But overall, I did like the final battle. Yeah, so the rating I give this movie is a good 9 out of 10. Yeah, I give this movie like a 9 out of 10, and I definitely did enjoy this film. I'm definitely going to keep on watching more Marvel films in the future and reviewing them. So thank you guys again for watching this video. I know this is like a long video, and I have to like keep on stopping from like different points, but I hope you were able to like watch this video throughout the end, and I appreciate you if you did. So again, I give this movie a 9 out of 10, and thank you again for watching. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
Now my problems, still my pain no more. I'm going numb. Yeah.